Up front first, our manager, Kevin, who's put a bit of a presentation together for you, Kevin Blackwell.
Just as we put last season to bed, I'm not going to talk about last season. Some of the stuff that we wanted to do couldn't happen, for obviously the reasons that Nev spoke to you. But I spoke with the chairman, and I said, and I said to him, what is it that we need to do? How do we take Bury Football Club forward? And yes, I did sell the job to them, because I think Bury has got not only a fantastic history, but we've had a great reputation for developing players and selling them on. And the club is based in one of the best parts, the Northwest is a hotbed of football. So we could attract players here. So we sat down and I said to him, this is how I see Bury Football Club. And the chairman did exactly the same. Give us 2 days and we came back and said, look, let's see where we are. And this is what we said. We want to implement, recognise first-class coaching syllabus and having good coaches at the club. Now, we try to make sure that every player or coach that comes here has got at least their A licence, but I wanted pro licence. So I brought Ronnie Jepson in. Ronnie Jepson's got a pro licence, and every other coach below that has a pro licence within 2 years. Why? Because I think that's what we should be looking for. We shouldn't be just saying because we're in the second division we can accept second best. Our staff can be or attain to be the best. To put in place structures and methods to achieve desired aims and objectives to keep Bury to get them the Hartsbury Football Club, they can't stand in the Football League. And I think we've already seen. When I came here, I wanted a new gym. We've got too many players who keep getting injured. And we've got some developing players who need to make sure that they get properly physically developed. And what we've got is some lads turn up for work in the morning, and prior to that they have to go to a gym anywhere around Bury or whatever, and it's difficult to ask someone to, before they come to work, to go to work before they come to work. So what we said was, I want to make sure that when they come in, if a player's got a deficiency in his right hamstring, that he actually does his work in the morning before we go out training. It's called prehab. Making sure that you work to try and build them up so you don't pick up injuries. And to that point, we talked about the gym. I went away for a week, and when I came back, all the walls had been knocked down. We drew up the plans last year. When I'd only been here 5 weeks, and I had the plans drawn up, and to be fair, I thought they'd already been accepted by the council, only to find out this morning that they weren't. So all the council came in today, said, what are you doing knocking things down? But to be fair, they were brilliant. Yeah, get on with it. We know that's right. So that's what, and then to develop a first-class training centre. We've got Lower Gig, and to be fair, the money that was spent on it last year has really helped. But we've only got one pitch where every team trains on, and you can imagine what it's like in the winter. We can't train down there, so we tried to find a training ground. And I rang Jill, first thing in the morning, Jill, snowing, it's cold, we can't train out on the pitch, where can we go? And if we're lucky, we might be able to train at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at, say, Carrington Indoor on a 40 by 40, and we're a professional football club. So what we did was, we've now implemented a new training facility over at Stockport. It's a brand new outdoor facility with grass that can be, or 4G, that can be trained on in the winter. And we booked it now for the first time ever, before anybody else, from the 1st of from November through to the end of February. We've got it 4 days a week. We can train now between 11 and 1. I haven't got to ring the players up, or Jill does in the morning, 20 players, don't turn up till 1 o'clock, you've got 20 minutes. It's not right. Yet this is what's happened at the football club. So, we've already got ahead of the game, so we now know we've got to get our winter training schedule. What is also going on is, the council are meeting the chairman, I think he might explain this later on, to look at putting together a proper training centre for Bury Football Club, where we can have the youth all the way through training at a proper centre. 3 pitches, indoor, outdoor, a gym, and like anything else, if you're going to develop a player or a business, if you're a Vauxhall Motors, you need a track to go around and pull the car together. Well, we need training facilities to make sure the players can be the best they can. So what I can say is that what we are doing, as you see now, is actually doing something about it. Next one. So what we say, implement an ethos. Anybody that comes and works at Bury Football Club, whether it's the groundsman or not, we want discipline, hard work, determination, will to succeed, commitment to excellence, pride and responsibility. Now, Vince Lombardi, we talked about this, individual commitment to a group effort, that's what makes a team work, a company work, it's society work or assimilation, it doesn't matter. But if the groundsman isn't right, we can't train on the pitch right. If the car park attendant turns up and he puts the cars all the wrong way, we can't get people in. We've all got to do our job right. And what we said was set standards. The chairman came in, look at Gordon tonight sitting up there with his shirt and tie on. That's what happened. He walked in and he said, I want to see people set out a vision when they walk in of Bury Football Club. It's not good enough to people walking in here and see people with jeans or, oh, it's over there. If someone walks in the club, they should be shown where how they should be, where they should be and what they should be doing. And in a manner that befits a professional football club. Next one. So on the football side, strategy, where we are, what's our ambitions, scouting, profiling, medical, strength conditioning and science, sports science. So I'll go through all of those things quickly for you now. Go on. Strategy, to establish elite players for Bury Football FC senior squad. That means from the youth all the way through. So we need better coaching in the youth, we need better scouting to bring players in and hopefully develop our own players. To create a seamless process throughout the age groups using the same methods and strategies. So what we train is that the first team, the reserves train that way, the under-18s train that way and the youth team train that way. Why? Because I went around the world and did what I think coaches should do and learn from them. Real Madrid, AC Milan, Sao Paulo in Brazil. I know they get world-class players, but if you see how they develop them, we can learn from them. And what they do is they make sure that everybody works all the way through with the same process. So that as a kid steps up, he hasn't got to do a situation for like a warm-up on the side of a pitch before a game. I've had it at clubs where the youth team warm up differently. The kid gets chosen for the first team, comes up for the first game, and he's in awe because he doesn't know what he's doing. He sort of bumps into people. Now, if he knows what they're doing, it makes one thing less challenging for him when he steps up. We want to implement a recognised class coaching syllabus, which we've got. Document that thick about how we coach players, what they need to be like, what they need to do, how we need to do it. And the match and player analysis. It's no good us just signing the player without knowing who he is, and it's no good us turning up playing opposition not knowing what their set plays are like. Who's their most dangerous players? Do they kick one way before a game? When they take penalties, which way do they go? We have none of that. Absolutely none of that. So what we said is match analysis. We need scouts just to do match analysis on the upcoming opposition, but also talent identification. So if we do happen to sell a player, say a centre-half, we know who the next centre-half is going to be. Not, as has happened, we've just sold him. Who do we get? We'll take him. That's him. He's a centre-half. Well, he might not be good enough. So what we make sure is we don't have the situation like we did last season where we signed 4 or 5 players and 3 of them only played 4 games the whole of last season. Now the problem that leads to is 1, we can't carry massive squads. 2, their wages cripple us, which is partly what happened last season. Their wages are already taken and we couldn't bring anybody else in. So we've got to make sure that when players come here, they can play a minimum of 35 to 45 games a season. Not 4 or 5, not 8 or 10. And I said last season, if we'd had a situation last season, we'd have needed, the way it was going with injuries, 20 players who could play 20 minutes. We need 50 players to finish a game. That's what we can't afford to do. So we need to produce technical reports on upcoming opposition, and that includes the style of play, what their strengths and weaknesses are, individuals and teams, set plays for and against, and the team's KPIs. That's key performing indicators. So we'll say Northampton, for example. Well, listen, when Northampton come here, put your tin hats on. That's going from back to front, everything. They don't sign anybody under 6 foot. They don't. Everyone's got to have a long throw. Every set plays in your box, and Wimbledon are exactly the same. Exeter come here, to be fair, try to play a bit, so the players now know what to expect. Being ready for your opposition, yeah? Talent identification. So as we said, we split it into 2 ways. Now we've got to know who we're playing. Sorry, who the talent is that we're going to try and buy and look at, yeah? So player profiling. Players need to be installed and set up. And what we said by that is, we have had no scouts. We've got to have scouts to recognise players, identify the talent before anybody else does. In general, the player profile will fit the following criteria. So, we need speed and pace. It's absolutely crucial now, the pace in the modern game. Power and strength. Intelligence and understanding, when and where to play, how to play. When you're given a job, can he follow the instructions? If he's marking someone, does he know what that means? Endurance. Can he last 90 minutes? Many players can only last 70 minutes. Most games are won between minute 70 and minute 90. The medical and fitness history. Don't sign players who've not played. I could choose a name, but I won't. Don't sign players on reputations. Look at how many games he played the previous season. If you sign a player over the last 3 or 4 seasons and he's only ever featured 4 or 5 times, you are not Houdini. I will not make them any fitter, any quicker, any better. We've got to make sure that the player's got endurance. He lasts. That way we get value for money and we're not killing the club through expensive loans. Okay? So a goalkeeper. What should we be looking for goalkeepers? There should be a minimum of 6 foot. Now all these criteria are given to the new scouts that we've got at the club. Yeah? What was that? I'm not saying anything, but you looked at last season, I was embarrassed. We went to Walsall second last game of the season. They had 2 goalkeepers 6'4", and as they trotted past me in the technical area to warm up, I then watched my 2 goalkeepers trot the other way, and it was like looking at school. But with the greatest respect, in the modern day, it doesn't mean because you're small. It doesn't, because if you're small, you've got to be exceptional, and I'm afraid that's the way it goes. But you're right. We need goalkeepers, particularly when they're going to be that are physical, strong, agile, and can deal with balls in the air. But they've got to have good handling. So what we said is, look, that's a criteria for a goalkeeper. So that's what we give to our scouts. If they don't come back to me, and most of those boxes are ticks, we're not going to look at the goalkeeper. It's just not, it's not there. That way, you can cut out a lot of time, wasted time, searching goalkeepers all over the country. No, if he doesn't fit that, I'm not sending senior staff to go and watch them. Yeah? What we're looking for full-backs, minimum 5'10", ideally 6 foot. Got to be able to defend that back post, but they've got to be quick, strong, have good endurance, good ability. They've got to be able to get him down the pitch. Once again, that's the criteria we're looking for. So our scouts know what's required to be a Bury FC player. You'll be surprised how many clubs don't do any of this. And a scout comes back and says, I've seen a great player. He's a good player. How big is he? He's 5'1". Can he defend the back post? No, he can't. Well, what's the point of having him then? You've got to have those criteria. Go on, you can move them on. Centre backs. Height, powerful, strong, quick, mobile, good heading skills. It sounds basic, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do it. Yeah. Once again, they're the criteria, you can move them through. So you can see that from every position, centre midfield, wide midfield, full-back, centre halves, strikers, depending on what you are, 6 foot, 5'10", depending on the type. If he's a second striker, if he's quick, if he's mobile, you wouldn't write him out. But he's got to have, we could have done with someone last season when had good ability to finish the chances that we created. If we had done, we would have been sitting in League One. But what we've got to say is, that's what we've got to try and look for. That's the criteria. Yep. So, scouts have to be responsible for identifying talent at home and abroad. And when we say abroad, this week we've had 25 people in on trial from Spain, Portugal, France, Germany. Because believe it or not, outside the top 2 divisions in all the countries in Europe, the lads aren't getting paid. Or, if you go to Greece now, and quite a few English lads have suffered from this, gone to Greece, not been paid. They're given the first month's wages, and for the next 4 months they're chasing the money, no money. So there's good players to be had in those divisions. We've got to try and find them. At the moment, there's a real raw talent lad that we've brought in from Belgium, and he's 6'4". Do you remember Kevin Francis? He's just like Kevin Francis. And we had a game yesterday morning, he scored 2 goals. He's done something, he's fun now. So I rang someone last night who I know really well. I said, listen, this lad's name, I'm not going to give his second name, but his first name's Jeremy. Lad from Belgium. This lad says he's a top man at Belgium. Can you find out about him? I showed you the thing that came today. He said, listen, this lad played for blah, blah, blah. He did this, this and this. He's a lad as raw as they come, but if he can get coached, he could be a championship player. And that came from Manchester United senior scout in Brussels. Now that's interesting. Now I only gave him the first name. And so that's the sort of thing that we've got to unearth. We've got to make sure that the scouts go around the country, so we have someone in place now who's going to say to the scouts, you're going to that game, that game, that game, and we keep everything documented. We should know in the Northwest, every player, we will know in the Northwest, every player from the age of 16 all the way through, we will know every player In the next 6 months, we will know every player. Why 16? Because within 2 years, they could be in our first team. So if they're let go by their previous clubs at 18, and I look at when we were at Sheffield United, we had Phil Jagielka, took him from Everton at 16, we sold him back to Everton. He's now an international. Michael Tong, taken from Manchester United, we sold him back to Stoke for £3.5 million. So there are players that let go, can't make it at the top level, but we've got to know them and try and nick them as much as we can. That's the aim, okay? Recruitment is one of the most important areas for the development of a club. Agents' recommendations are not an acceptable means of recruitment. I get agents on my phone every day, and I have a feeling that most people sign them because they know the agent, they might know a mate. That isn't good enough. I'm not having that. So agent recommendations are not acceptable by means of recruitment. Senior members of staff, such as management or senior scouts or first team coaches, must appraise every player before we sign them. It's no good getting him in and someone says, well, I thought he was this. I thought he could do that. It's no good thinking. We've got to know. The infrastructure of the club must have the ability to develop players, physical, mental and technically. However, in order to make the most of what we've got, the facilities on offer have to be improved, and that's what's happening. It's the key to success. Your recruitment, if you sign good players or developing players and they come off, that's how you'll be a good club. Yep. If we sign a player, they have to go through full medical screenings. Now that's just part of it there. Joint assessment, upper limbs, lower limbs. We signed a player here 3 years ago, I think it was, and the recommendation was that he wasn't signed because he had a curvature of the back of the lower spine which led to hamstring injuries. His record showed that he was out for 8 times, and in that time they were all hamstring injuries. What's the point of having a medical if you don't follow it? Yep. That's all the screening. They go to the laboratory, they do on-field testing. All this will happen or is happening at the football club. Yep. That's some of the, you can't quite see it there, but that's some of the, they've got to lift weights, they've got to do reps, they've got to do jumps, everything's on there, they've got to do it all. And this is used at all the top clubs. Now if it's good enough for Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, Tottenham and Arsenal, it must be good enough for Bury Football Club. If it's good for Real Madrid, Barcelona, it's good enough for us. That's what they do, and that's a player that's signed for 20, 30 million. But our 20, 30 million is a player that we're paying £1,000 a week to. If he's wrong, we're wrong. It cripples the club. And that was part of our problem. We signed too many players who would have failed medicals, in the end cost us everything. Yep. Bringing in performance managers. So what we've done this week, we've taken a new lad. Ironically, he was recommended very highly by Philip on a course with Ben Futcher, a high performance sports manager, sports scientist from Everton, and he's joined the club on Monday, and he's only 22 and he's already been involved in the England under-20 squad to do the coaching or the physical development. Been really impressed with him, and he's joined the club full time. So all of a sudden we've now got a high performance manager that we needed, and he will do the first team, the reserves, and then what he'll do, he'll set all the standards for the fitness coaches from the universities that we're going to use for the groups below. Once again, maintaining the same development plans all the way through, consistency and unanimity. Yep. Basically, as I said, that's what he'll be responsible for. Fitness of the first team, he'll be responsible for making sure the new gym that's going in over there, that all the equipment that's is in the right positioning, the right place. He'll be making sure that every player gets their own individual pack. So if it's me, I've got to do this, that and that, it's on the pack. If he needs to be quicker over 5 yards, he'll be doing sprinting every day. If he needs to be upper body strength, he'll be doing upper body strength. Each one will have their own individual pack developed by the sports manager. Okay. Same thing. Go on. Go on. So what we're saying about elite development, if we're going to do it right, we use a thing called TAPAS. So a player that we're looking at has technique, athleticism, personality, understanding and speed. That is from that age of 9, 10 and 11 all the way through to 25, 31, 32. Even if I'm signing a senior player, he's got to have some personality. If I'm signing a senior player, he might not be a youngster sprinting around everywhere. I'm asking him for his knowledge to pass on to the youngsters. So you look at each individual player and category and try and pick out what you can from there. So some of the senior players that we will try and bring in will be ones that we've identified who are good talkers, are happy to pass their knowledge on and help young players. Okay? Bury FC should not leave development players have a chance. After studying the best youth systems around the world, we need to give the kids more training time than the average. Employment of specific skills, technical coach, alongside sports psychology, and the use of elite performance developers. I don't think you can leave anything to chance. For me, it's more design. We've got to give them more time, more skills, more technical coaches, sports psychology, and performance analysis. If we can help those kids and teach them about where they're going wrong and doing things and give them more time, if I practice for an hour and he practices for 20 hours, so long as his practice and his coaching is better, he'll be much more improved than I will. Okay? I think that's it, really. Move it on. That's it. Bury Football Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to thank Kevin for that, because in all my time at this football club, I've never seen a manager stand up and do that. So give him a round of applause. Moving on nicely, Stuart's going to get up next. Have 5 minutes break, just go to the toilet, replenish your glasses, we need them all in line.